Hello everyone, Lightning Crab is back again. As I mentioned in the update video, I wanted to do a little behind the scenes video about one of the edits I did in episode 8. That is going to be for this shot right here, which is right here with Bato. Zooming in on his face like that.
They did something we didn't expect.
Now you can see we got a couple different things we're working with here. We got this zoom going on, as well as this moving background. Let's take a look at the original, which is right here.
He's still fighting his own war, a personal one for him.
Now you see in the original, same thing. We got a moving background, we got this dramatic zoom in on his face, and we also got the light going across his head. Now, I am sure that everyone who edits Abridged videos is looking at this and feeling the exact pain that I felt when I first brought this into the editing room. The three things that make an editor's life hard as far as lip flapping goes is moving backgrounds, dramatic zooms, and animation changes, such as this light. Now, because of the scene that I'm going to use it for, I need the zoom. I still need to be able to zoom in on his face dramatically like this, and I also need to keep the moving background. Now, here's the fun part. Just looking at this, you may be wondering, how did you do it, Chris? How did you manage to preserve all this shit for the final product? You know, how did you manage to work with this insane fucking clip right here? The answer is really quite simple. Fuck that shit. Fuck no, we're not working with it. You saw this shit. Look at this. This is such bullshit. The light go across his face, zoom in, dude. No, fuck no. Fuck no, I ain't working with that shit. It's fucking bullshit. I want to use this moving background, but the problem is that the door is zooming in as well. So I'd have to work with, if I want to cut the background, then I have to work around this car frame zooming in and out on me, as well as the light changing on that too. You know, this is such a complicated shot to try and edit with. If you want to try and time your own audio over it, it's fucking impossible. I'm not going to go too in depth on all the other suboptimal choices that I could have done in order to fix this. I'm going to just focus mainly on the one that I did. And that is simply by not using this fucking clip. So here's the solution that I came up with. That is, like I said, just fuck this clip, fuck that shit. And the answer was using this one of Togusa, which is right before. Now you can see he's talking. It's still got the light going across his face, but here's the key differences here. One, you see when Togusa talks, it does not move his chin. It's just his mouth that is moving. When Bato talks, it's moving his chin as well. And that makes it even more annoying to cut out of the shot. So here's the solution that I came up with. What I did was I went through frame by frame, extracted each of these frames. You see, in the background, you can see you got this light going back here, goes across, and then eventually it loops back, and it comes back through again here. There we go. So what I did was I basically went in, took a screenshot of each of these clips, enough to recreate a looping GIF of the background. So you can see that here. So let's watch. Now you can see this gives me a GIF of just the moving background. I just keep hitting the right arrow through all these pictures, all these screenshots, and bam, it's a fucking moving picture. And then here's what we did after that. After that, I took each one of those into Photoshop, flipped the image, and used the smudge tool to push Togusa's face to the right on every single one of these. So you see his face is like melting. So as an example, let's take one of those. Where'd they go? Here. Open Photoshop. Take that. Image rotation. Flip horizontal. Take the smudge tool. Get it all big. Swoosh, swoosh, swooshity, swoosh. That sort of thing. Now, I'm using a mouse right now. I normally have a tablet that I use for this, which helps a lot. So use the tablet to smush his face all, carefully, actually take my time with how I'm doing it, and eventually the end result you get is these melty clips. This was essentially the hardest part of the process, which was basically making this background loop, which is basically throwing together this background clip from Togusa's footage and pushing his face away so that I could overlay Bato on top of him. That's what took the most time. Now, as I'm smudging Togusa's face like this, the thing I'm thinking about is Bato's face. It's going to go over top of it. So the other thing I did was I went in, I picked out some lip flaps for Bato where the light is just like this, and where his mouth is closed, where it's open, and the light's still the same, then half open, and it's still the same. Took those all into Photoshop and cut them out, so we have these three. I also resized them so that they were all the same size. You also had to like edit out the outlines of these, which is pretty annoying. Now the end result is we had this looping background clip of Togusa. Look at him. Aside from his skin fucking disappearing, this is workable. We have a workable moving background. Now you can see the light's still changing on Togusa, but that doesn't matter because we're just gonna lay Bato over top Togusa. So these are all in nested sequences, by the way. So take them all, put them in a nested sequence, and biggity bam, we got a fucking loop. So then the next step is put it all in another nested sequence. Go in here and we put Bato over it. So here's the loop we got going. Then here's Bato over top. Then the next step was to import the voice clip and then lip flap it like normal. So right here, if I had the audio, he would be speaking his line. In fact, we'll just tap over to it right now. Where is it? Here we go.
Delicious jelly would be their undoing. Eventually, the Viet Cong struck back at this village.
Okay, so right here is where he would be saying, eventually, the Viet Cong struck back at this village. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So yeah, on one layer you have just Bato speaking the line, and it's all lip flapped out. Then on another layer you got this moving background of Togusa. And you put them both together, and voila! Bato is driving in a car, and he is speaking the line. But that's not good enough. The next step is to take that whole sequence that we just made and then apply a zoom to it. So where we got here, right here. Okay. And finally, our third nested sequence. And real quick, nested sequences are basically containers. So basically this is a container for this, and this also has this background, which is a container for these. It's all a big Russian Matryoshka doll, basically. So at the end we have this final nested sequence, this outside doll of this big Matryoshka doll. You take that, motion, scale, position, keyframe it, slide it over. There we go, so like something like that. And bam, we got a zoom. And there you go, that's our end result. Now the unfortunate downside of this method is you do lose this really nicely animated light going across his face. You know, it's regrettable that you gotta lose that, but it's like, in the end you gotta make a choice. You gotta lose one of these things in order to stay sane. And at the end of the day, the light animation is the hardest thing to keep. So, there you go. That is an example of one of the big fucking edits that I had to do for this. If I spent less time, I could have probably just done this, and I wouldn't be able to zoom. Or maybe I'd have to give up the moving background. But I want to keep both of those, so I went the extra mile. There you go. Peace.